His father was 100 years older than him, and his mother 90, an extraordinary beginning for an extraordinary man. He became the first in history to be circumcised at just 8 days old. Later in life, he didn't flinch when he discovered he was to be sacrificed, trusting completely in God's plan. And in his old age, blinded and vulnerable, he confused his sons in a moment that would change the course of history. Our story begins with a laugh. No, seriously, a big laugh. You see, Isaac, the son of the great Abraham, his name means laughter because when his mother, Sarah, was told she'd have a baby, she couldn't believe it. She was 90 years old, and Abraham, Isaac's dad, was 100. A baby at our age, she chuckled, but God had promised, and sure enough, baby Isaac was born. When Isaac was only 8 days old, he was circumcised. He is, in fact, the very first person in the world to be circumcised at only 8 days old. When God initially commanded Abraham to circumcise himself and his household, Abraham was 99 and Ishmael was 13. Isaac grew up knowing he was special, not just because of his miraculous birth, but because he was chosen to carry on his father Abraham's mission of teaching the world about God. Isaac spent his days connecting himself, immersed in the wisdom of God. He was a holy soul and never left the promised sacred land that God promised to his father Abraham. One day, when Isaac was 37 years old, Abraham heard a message from God. It was a test, and it was a big one. God asked Abraham to take Isaac to a mountain and offer him as a sacrifice. Can you imagine how scared or confused Isaac might have felt? But Isaac trusted his father, and Abraham trusted God. When they reached the mountain, Isaac carried the wood for the altar on his back. He noticed something was missing. "Father," he asked, "where's the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham's answer was simple but powerful. God will provide. Isaac understood what was going on. He was already an adult, but Isaac knew to trust the word of God. Just as Abraham was about to follow through, an angel called out, "Stop!" A ram appeared, caught in the bushes, and it was offered instead. This test wasn't about sacrifice. It was about faith and trust. And Isaac? He walked away knowing just how deeply his father trusted God. When Isaac grew up, it was time for him to get married. But this wasn't going to be an ordinary match. Now let's dive into one of the most extraordinary matchmaking stories of all time. Abraham, now an elderly man, wanted to ensure his son Isaac would marry someone who shared their values. So he called upon his trusted servant Eliezer, who had been with him for years, and sent him on a mission to find the perfect wife for Isaac. This wasn't just a matchmaking trip, it was a journey of faith. Eliezer loaded 10 camels with gifts and set off, traveling to the city of Nahor, where Abraham's family lived. It was important to Abraham that Isaac's wife came from the same background as he did. When he arrived, he stopped by the town well, the heart of activity where people gathered to draw water. As Eliezer rested, he prayed a heartfelt prayer to God, asking for a clear sign. "Let the girl who offers me water and also offers to water my camels be the one you've chosen for Isaac." Even before he finished praying, a young girl named Rebecca appeared. She was kind and full of energy. When Eliezer asked for a sip of water, Rebecca quickly lowered her jug and offered him a drink. But then, without hesitation, she said, "I'll also draw water for your camels until they've had enough." Now let's pause for a moment. Do you know how much water a thirsty camel can drink? A lot. This wasn't just a small favor, it was a massive act of kindness and generosity. Eliezer was stunned. Could this be the girl? Eliezer gave Rebecca gifts, golden bracelets and a nose ring. He then asked her about her family, and when she revealed she was the granddaughter of Abraham's brother Nahor, Eliezer knew this was no coincidence. This was divine intervention. Rebekah invited Eliezer to her home to meet her family. There, he met her father, Bethuel, and her brother Laban. But things weren't entirely straightforward. Laban, sharp-eyed and greedy, noticed the expensive gifts Eliezer had given Rebekah and saw an opportunity for wealth. Eliezer wasted no time. He told them the full story, how Abraham had sent him on this mission, how he prayed for a sign, and how Rebekah's kindness was the answer to his prayers. He made it clear that this match was orchestrated by God. Bethuel and Laban agreed that this was indeed divine. But then, something happened. Bethuel tried to interfere, plotting to poison Eliezer's food to keep his precious jewelry and stop the marriage. But God intervened. An angel came and switched the plate of food with Bethuel's plate, and he was poisoned instead. The next morning, when Eliezer was ready to leave with Rebekah, Laban and Rebekah's mother tried to delay things. "Let her stay with us for a few more days," they said. But Eliezer insisted. So they asked Rebekah, "Will you go with this man?" Without hesitation, she replied, "I will go." Rebekah, a true rose among thorns, was willing to leave her home and family behind, trusting in God's plan and a future she couldn't see, showed her incredible faith and courage. She joined Eliezer on the journey back to Canaan, where Isaac was waiting. When they arrived, Isaac was in the field meditating, and he looked up to see camels approaching. Rebekah, seeing him from a distance, asked Eliezer, "Who is that man walking in the field to meet us?" When she learned it was Isaac, she quickly covered herself with a veil, a sign of modesty. Isaac and Rebekah's meeting was the beginning of a beautiful partnership. Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, symbolizing her role as the next matriarch of the family. When Isaac's mother Sarah was alive, there were 3 constant miracles in their home. The candles miraculously lasted from week to week. The dough would rise to be enough for all their guests, and there was always a cloud of glory resting on their tent. When Sarah passed away, these miracles stopped. But as soon as Rebekah came into their lives, these miracles resumed. Isaac and Rebekah had been married for 20 long years, but still, they didn't have any children. So they both prayed and prayed a lot. This is when Isaac instituted the afternoon prayers. Then, finally, God answered their prayers, and Rebekah finds out she's pregnant with twins. But as the babies grow inside her, they're constantly kicking and moving around, making Rebekah wonder what's going on. To seek some advice, she visits the house of God to speak to a wise and respected rabbi named Shem. When she tells him about the struggle inside her, he shares an amazing prophecy. There are 2 children in her womb, each destined to become the father of a great nation. And he reveals something even more surprising. The younger child will one day rule over the older one. That's why they've been fighting even before they were born. Esau is born first, and he's all hairy with red hair. They named him Esau, which means hairy. Right after him comes Jacob, who's holding on to Esau's heel. They named him Jacob, which means heel. Even though they're twins, they're very different. Esau is sneaky and loves to go hunting, while Jacob is calm and likes to study. One day, when the twins were 15 years old, Abraham passes away and is being buried, and Isaac is mourning for his father. Esau goes out for a hunt, but Jacob stays home. He decides to make a yummy pot of round lentils for their father, as a reminder to Isaac that life keeps going round and round. Esau came home starving from his hunt and saw Jacob cooking the lentil stew. "Give me some of that red stuff," Esau demanded. Jacob said, "Sure, but only if you sell me your birthright." Esau, thinking only about his hunger, agrees. The birthright meant the responsibility to carry on the family's spiritual mission. Jacob wanted it badly, and Esau didn't seem to care. This trade would shape their futures in ways no one could have imagined. Isaac, in the meantime, moved to Gerar because there was a famine in the land he lived in. God asked him not to leave the Holy Land and not to go to Egypt. In Gerar, like his father, Isaac pretended Rebekah was his sister. Abimelech wanted to take Rebekah as a wife, but found out that they were married. Isaac and Abimelech swear an oath of friendship at Beersheba. Isaac becomes wealthy, and the Philistines envy him. So Abimelech sends Isaac away because he has become too powerful. But after their disputes over water rights, Isaac and Abimelech eventually make peace, and Isaac reopens the wells his father dug. Yes, Isaac was a well digger. That was his business. Many years go by, and Isaac becomes blind. Esau would spend time pretending to be a thinker and a scholar by asking Isaac studious questions, like, how do we tithe salt and straw? Thinking that since Isaac was blind, he could not see that Esau was really tricking him. Isaac was blind, but he had vision. He was able to see through Esau's tricks, but he wanted to restore him to God. Well, here's where things get even more dramatic. Isaac wanted to give Esau a special firstborn blessing, but Rebekah had other plans. She believed Jacob was the one who truly deserved it. After all, he bought the birthright with the lentil stew. So she helped Jacob dress up like Esau, using goat skins to make his arms feel hairy like his brothers, and sent him to Isaac with a prepared meal. Meanwhile, Esau went out to hunt for a meal to prepare for Isaac. Isaac, confused but convinced, gave Jacob the blessing. He said, "Your hands are Esau's hands, but your voice is Jacob's voice." When Esau found out, he was furious. He cried out, "Bless me too, Father." But Isaac couldn't take back what was already given. Jacob had to run away to escape Esau's anger, and this moment marked the beginning of Jacob's incredible journey. You might be wondering, why did Isaac go blind in the first place? It was caused by the smoke from the sacrifices Esau's wives offered to idols. But it was part of God's plan, so Jacob could receive the blessing without Isaac recognizing him. Isaac lived a quieter life compared to Abraham or Jacob. He didn't travel far or fight great battles, but his strength was in his calm, absoluteness in his steady faith. A man of principle, strong in his ways, he reopened the wells his father had dug, showing his dedication to preserving the spiritual legacy of Abraham. For 22 years, Isaac didn't see Jacob, but in his later years, Isaac saw his family grow, coming back from studying day and night and working hard for his uncle Laban. Jacob returned home with 4 wives, a daughter, and 12 sons, who would become the 12 tribes of Israel. Isaac lived the longest among the patriarchs, reaching the remarkable age of 180. In comparison, Abraham lived to 175, and Jacob lived to 147. He was buried alongside his parents, wife, and later his son Jacob and daughter-in-law Leah in the cave of Machpelah in Hebron that Abraham bought to bury Isaac's mother Sarah. Isaac's life reminds us that sometimes the greatest strength comes from patience and faith. Just like Isaac, we too can find strength in the quiet moments, trusting that God's plan is unfolding in our lives, even when we can't see it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Let us know who else you want to make our next video about. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from our shared history.